This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
We finally saw some offense across the NFL once again in week number 8, and hopefully that carries over into Monday Night Football. We got the Bengals at the Browns, and a pretty interesting game on tap. Happy Halloween to all of you out there listening. We're going to break down that game from a betting perspective and let you know where we are seeing value right now over at FanDuel Sportsbook. This is Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, joined here once again by Ryan Williams. Check him out on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. Ryan, we're going to talk about Bengals at Browns, but first of all, happy Halloween to you. How you doing today?
Oh, happy Halloween to you too, sir. It's funny. It's fun when these holidays fall on a football day, so I can have an excuse not to really partake. I mean, we've already, Thanksgiving with the family has already been taken over by football. We got Christmas football this year, and then Halloween as well too. So.
Oh, Christmas football is a bummer. Like, that's the one where I'm like, I don't really want to do this right now. Halloween I can do, Thanksgiving totally good, but like Christmas, I don't know. We'll figure that out later on. But I think that the Halloween football is kind of fun because the Bengals and Browns kind of look like jack-o'-lanterns. Like, they kind of fit the vibe that we're looking for tonight. And we could see some scary football because no Jamar Chase, no David NJOKU for tonight for either team. That could make things a bit ugly offensively. We'll break down the implications of those two absences and what it means from a betting perspective later on. But first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to Covering the Spread. Wherever you get your podcasts, we'll have our Week 9. Ooh, that's weird to say. Week 9 NFL preview podcast. The First Look podcast coming up Tuesday. I'll break down that, potentially talk some World Series as well. We got our college football show coming Wednesday, and then Ryan is back with me Thursday for the Week 9 preview, and then prop bets on Friday with JJ Zacharyse, and all those right here in the Covering the Spread podcast feed and up on the FanDuel YouTube page. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you prefer to watch and consume the podcast. NBA season is underway. Now it's the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in free bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from the money line to point spread to player props. You can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. Plus, with live betting, you'll get updated odds on games that have already started. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use, so download FanDuel today to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Make every moment more this season with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. Refund issued is non-withdrawable free bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. In Connecticut, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. In Kansas, 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. In Louisiana, 1-877-770-STOP. In New York, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Tennessee, call the Red Line at 1-800-889-9789 or in Wyoming, 1-800-522-4700. In West Virginia, 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Now, Ryan, let's turn our attention now to the Bengals at the Browns. We'll talk about the traditional markets here in just one second. But first, I want your overall view of this game. What are the key things standing out to you when you look at this game from a top-down perspective?
Yeah, so, I mean, let's start off on the Cincinnati side. You already addressed it. I mean, elephant in the room is how Burrow's going to play without Jamar Chase. This is a team that has kind of struggled, even with Jamar Chase being there, against this Browns team. Kevin Stefanski has been able to dial up things and really has had the numbers. So, I mean, there are paths, right? We hope that Joe Mixon can get involved here against this Cleveland defense. We hope that, they implement some things with Tyler Boyd. T. Higgins, Hayden Hurst, like they still have pieces, but I am interested in that. And then on the other side, I know we'll talk about it, but it's like outside of the Cleveland run game, this offense has not been able to get anything going. So they really, if this becomes like, hey, the Bengals don't have Jamar Chase, but they're still able to put up points, like I just don't see how Cleveland can stay in this game. Now, this is a divisional matchup where things happen all the time. I think they do need to feed Nick Chubb. I think they do need to feed Kareem Hunt, who's on the trading block, possibly could be one of his last games with this team. But without David Njoku there on the other side as well, too, I think that, that's been, Jacoby Brissett's kind of bread and butter security blanket there. Similar to the other side, Jamar Chase is a security blanket. So this is one where, all things considered, I would like betting the over in this game because of the pieces and the other side and how these games have gone in the past. But without those two key pieces for either team, I am trying to lean or trying to convince myself to lean the under here. It is an island game, Monday Night Football. I know people will steam it up, but that's kind of where my head's at right now.
Yeah, I think that I would have liked the over in this game had it not been for all the injuries. But once you take out explosive players, like Njoku's an explosive player, I put him in that bucket as well. You take away two guys, and that's a good way to get to an over, is having chunk gains, those longer gains to get yourself there. And I think taking that both Chase and Njoku out really does impact the odds we wind up getting that kind of a game. Now, the Bengals 3.5-point favorites here. The total, as you mentioned, is 45.5. And I think for me, the Chase injury is extra disappointing because the Bengals had hit their stride. They had these issues earlier on this year where their offense was just pretty stagnant. And the past couple of weeks, they changed things up. They'd become a shotgun offense, and I thought they had figured things out. You look at their early down efficiency relative to expectation compared to their opponent, just their passing efficiency on early downs. They were 0.22 above expectation on early downs in their game against New Orleans, 0.50 above expectation against Atlanta. So they were just torching people. Now you take Jamar Chase out of the equation. And I think for me, that does lower my enthusiasm around the Bengals because part of the reason that they were struggling earlier on was T. Higgins being banged up, and now you take out one of those guys. And again, it's like, oh, okay, well, but I think that they're better equipped to handle it now because their offense is less segmented, where they're not signaling what they're to do by being under center versus shotgun. They're just in shotgun all the time. So right. I did lower the Bengals in my numbers with Jamar Chase being out because I talked on Tuesday about how I wanted to bet the Bengals money line. It was minus 180 at that time. It had gotten to minus 196. It is now back to minus 178 as a result of the Chase injury and some other stuff. My numbers after accounting for Jamar Chase being out have their win odds at 65.7%, whereas their implied odds are 64%. So there is still a slight edge on the Bengals at minus 178, but it's not big enough where I'd bet it now. Like I have this exact number I have minus 180. So it's actually a bit worse than this right now, but I have minus 180. I would not bet it now if I hadn't already. I still have a slight edge on the Bengals money line here, but I wouldn't bet it personally. I think I had a better edge earlier on before the Chase injury was announced. So to me, Ryan, I'm standing pat in the traditional markets, holding on that money line and not adding anything on there. What about you? Where are you at with the spread or the money line here, given the injuries on both sides?
Yeah, so the spread is funny because, we see an open at 2.5 here for the Cincinnati Bengals. There are some places that still have it at 3. FanDuel Sportsbook, we have it at 3.5. So just really baiting you to kind of take that number. And I mean, the Bengals side was a slam dunk to me with Jamar Chase being healthy. Now that he's out, I'm still interested in taking the Bengals here at the 3.5. I know it's on the road. They have been good against the spread against this team, 11-3 against the spread versus the Cleveland Browns in the past 14 games. But that's been when the Cleveland Browns have been favored. We see Joe Burrow here as a favorite without Jamar Chase. It feels a little trappy. But again, Jacoby Brissett on the other side, and maybe Nick Chubb gets going. But, I think this defense, we've talked about the Bengals a lot on this podcast on Covering the Spread. They control their own destiny here. And a lot of people have written them off and they have caught their stride. And you see the way that T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are playing. And these are, these are the 2 and 3, but these guys could be 1 and 2 on a couple of these NFL rosters, right? So I know that Jamar Chase sucks, and it'll be one of those things. Hindsight's 2020. If the Bengals don't cover this 3.5, you'd be looking at it like, oh, that Jamar Chase was needed. And if they do, it'll be like, yep, they still had weapons enough to make this happen. So I'm still going to lean the 3.5. Cleveland's offense just has been so anemic. They haven't shown me anything to want to put my hard-earned dollars on them quite yet. So that's what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I think that if it weren't for the strides they'd made the past couple of weeks, where they were able to kind of make some systemic changes to their offense, if they hadn't done that, I'd probably be lower in the Bengals than I am right now. But I think given that we have seen that improvement, I'm feeling pretty okay about them, and not feeling super, super skittish about the fact that I have that money line bet from earlier on this week on the Bengals side. Let's talk about the player props here. Let's begin on the Bengals side. No Jamar Chase here. Obviously, he is a massive cog in their offense. Any value standing out to you on the Bengals side of things, whether it be as a result of the Chase injury or not?
Yeah, I mean, the receiving props, when you're looking at them, I mean, T. Higgins at 78.5 feels right. That's at minus 132 juice, which again feels right. He's the star. But let's look at Tyler Boyd at minus 113 at 60.5. I mean, Tyler Boyd has been, he's been this weapon. He's been the kind of X factor for Joe Burrow over these past couple of weeks. You love that he's playing out of the slot here, can avoid those outside corners for the Cleveland Browns. And I just really like his upside in this matchup. He has had some success in this matchup as well, when you're going back through the years and everything that he's done against this team. So like Tyler Boyd there, his prop there. Hayden Hurst is also interesting at 38.5. I think that, without Chase there and pass heavy, if Mixon can't get it done, which, we've seen limited work for him, limited work in the red zone, or not limited. They do try and give him chances. He just can't convert them. But I think Hayden Hurst is also an interesting bet here, who they brought in. Has really kind of hit his stride as of late too. So those will be the key ones I'm taking. Obviously, if you want to take T. Higgins, just because of that number being kind of under 80 and him, really seeing a significant target share that is with Chase. You expect it to have even more without Chase. But yeah, Boyd and Hurst are really the lower ones for me.
Yeah, so going back to the Boyd one, I thought when I first saw it, I was like, okay, I should take this under, because I thought 60.5 was super high. But then I dug in, I was like, oh, he had 3 deep targets last week. Like, they're actually using him in better ways than I thought they were when I had like this perception of Tyler Boyd in my mind. And he is a very efficient player. He can he can actually earn targets when there's one fewer guy out there. So I actually thought I was going to go the other side of that one, but then talk myself out of it based on digging more into it. So I don't disagree with that at all. Other one I wanted to mention is not actually posted yet. I would assume it would be before kickoff, but I want to see the Joe Mixon rushing plus receiving number, because he's been pretty involved in the passing game at times this year. And the issue Mixon has had is he's been like hideously inefficient, like real bad from an efficiency perspective. But I'm not sure if you can be inefficient against this Cleveland rush defense. Like, it might be tough to be bad against them. So I don't really know which route he would take to getting an over here in the rushing plus receiving market. It could be via the pass. It could be via the run, because again, the efficiency there, but I think he could get a target bump with no Jamar Chase. He could potentially just be efficient on the ground as well, or they could just skew a bit more run heavy than they typically would, because they don't have that difference maker in Jamar Chase out at wide receiver. So I want to see what that is. If I had to guess, it's probably going to open around like 90 or so ish for the rushing plus receiving. His rushing yardage prop is 63.5, and it's minus 146. Not really super.
It's going to be in the 80s.
Yeah, it okay?
I mean, I guess without Chase, but I would imagine. I mean, Joe Mixon getting a 30, or I guess whatever that be, over 25 receiving yard prop, that would be pretty hefty.
Right.
I would be surprised if we opened it up there. I would wait for them to kind of let it get steamed up. I could see it around like 21-ish as an open. So, you're still looking at under 90 there. That would be a phenomenal line. So yeah, I'm interested in that too.
Yeah, I think I would if it winds up being 85, I think that's where I'm like, okay, definitely give me the over. I think that's the tipping point for me is if they put it at 85, I'm taking the over. I think that's what I want to say here. If they get to 90, then I'm probably just staying away. I think that's my view of it. So he's the first thing I would check once it's up, or if it's up at available books to you, I would dig in there. But I think that's the first one I want to see because I don't think he can be inefficient in this matchup, which he's been all year. I think he could get a bump in passing game work with no Jamar Chase. So I think you combine those factors together, it does at least make an over pretty viable there. Trying to find where Mixon is at some other spots, and 94.5. So
okay. Interesting.
I guess that's a stay away. That's not high enough where I'm going under, but that's a little juicy. But if FanDuel hangs a lower line, then go for it. It's just a little bit high for me there. Let's switch sides and go to the Browns here. With no David Njoku, you mentioned Kareem Hunt. He is potentially on the move. FanDuel has actually proactively bumped Dearness Johnson's touchdown props up. He's like plus 320 for anytime touchdown, kind of saying like, hey, in case Kareem Hunt gets traded, we're not going to get skewered. So I respect, right. I get it. Any value for you on the Brown side of things with no Njoku here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is interesting. His receiving line prop is just too low for me. I believe it was in the 40s last time I checked, 43.5 possibly. But either way, I mean, this guy has been, outside of Amari Cooper, the next best thing for Jacoby Brissett at the wide receiver position. And then you factor out Noah Njoku. I'll just hammer that because they have shown to have a rapport here over the season thus far. Amari Cooper at plus 170 anytime touchdown. Like, this is the only receiver that catches touchdowns on this team. He has 4. I think the next closest one is 2, 1 maybe. It's not great for the wide receiver group that they're throwing out there. So Amari Cooper just smashed. And then I do like Kareem Hunt. All of the props. I mean, if you want to take his anytime touchdown at 240, I believe it is on the FanDuel Sportsbook. If you want to dabble in his rushing and receiving when that comes up, because he's actually been involved in these games in the past in this divisional matchup, whether that's, Nick Chubb has put the game out of reach already with him getting 100 yards and 2 touchdowns and Kareem Hunt have your day, or whether, Nick Chubb's been banged up and they've leaned on Kareem Hunt. But either way, we've seen this happen throughout the league thus far when players on the move like Christian McCaffrey, and I'm not saying Kareem Hunt is a Christian McCaffrey, but they're trying to showcase a piece if he's on the trading block, right? So he could just come out here, especially, if things aren't going well for Nick Chubb, and just kind of be that guy. And they could be like, all right, put some stuff on paper and then we'll move you, for a better draft pick. So I actually do like Kareem Hunt to be heavily involved this week tonight. And I'm looking at all of his props where I can.
Yeah, 53.5 is what I see posted elsewhere for Kareem Hunt rushing plus receiving. I get why it's there. I think that probably is high enough where I would be staying away. I want to go back to Amari Cooper, though, because you mentioned the David Njoku receiving yardage prop. I think that's where I'd want to go with Cooper. He's at 52.5 right now. Over is minus 113, and he's had a great role this year with Njoku. 26.8% overall target share for Amari Cooper. He has 37.9% of the deep targets. He's had multiple deep targets in 3 straight games and in 4 of the past 5 games. As you mentioned, very involved towards the red zone, 29% share there. And Njoku is vacating 25.8% of the targets in the red zone as well. Now, we'll talk about implications of that later on as well. But I think that you're basically taking out the number 2 pass catcher in this offense. And Amari Cooper has shown he can get over 52.5 even without having those advantages. So I think that's the way I'd want to go personally, is with the Cooper over 53.5. I think it is actually now. 52.5 for Amari. I think that's where I'd want to go here, just because I know the baseline level of targets should be very, very high. So to me, I think Amari is the main place I'd want to go. Now, I was alluding to Njoku's red zone role and how active he is down there. I think that could open up some value in the touchdown market. Right now, Harrison Bryant is plus 320. That's not long. That is not a big number. And you may look at it like, oh, why is he that short? Like, I would expect him to be a bit longer than that. But Harrison Bryant has shown he can be a touchdown scorer, even in games where NJOKU was active last year with that team. We know he can earn targets, even when, again, NJOKU is out there. Harrison Bryant had 6 targets back in week number 4. He's had a couple 4-target games, battling through an injury this year. And I think he's the kind of guy who could benefit pretty well from this situation. So to me, Harrison Bryant plus 320 may not seem like it's a great number right off the bat. I do think that there is merit to taking that one. So that's my favorite touchdown prop right now, Ryan. What are you liking in that department over at FanDuel?
Love that. Yeah, that's great. I will just, kind of take a stand on Amari Cooper there for the Browns at 170. And then also Tyler Boyd at plus 145, I think is definitely interesting there when you factor in, no chase in the red zone and how they lean. And Tyler Boyd we've seen in the past, he's more likely to score his touchdowns from outside of the 20 or between the 20s, I should say. Not really in the red zone, green zone, but just because of Chase not being there, I think there gives him ample opportunities to find the end zone. So at plus 145, I'm willing to take a shot there.
Yeah, I think that the Amari one especially is pretty interesting to me too. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else you want to say from this game, Ryan, or are we all good here?
Yeah, if you look at the game specials, I think it's interesting when you talk about, what Joe Burrow's possibly going to have to do. And just, if Mixon's, kind of struggles or lack of touches continue, it could be the Joe Burrow show that kind of, gets them to the pace where they need to be winning by 4 points or more. Plus 100 on Joe Burrow throwing for 250 touchdowns and 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. So you're getting plus money there, being able to double up whatever unit you put down on it, I think is extremely interesting. And that's mainly the one that I was looking at, where I was like, I don't know if I want to take the 303, but if you do, that's 420. Plus money there on that action. And, we've seen Joe Burrow be able to put up some points there. So that's interesting. I always like to kind of touch on those game specials because I feel like those go unnoticed here on the FanDuel Sportsbook, but they're really, there's really some nice juice to some of these if you can talk yourself into a story of the way the game's going to go.
Yeah, that is what you have to do. Is you have to just, tell a story about the way the game goes down, have a way where both these things wind up hitting. And if you can talk yourself into the odds of that narrative being higher than the odds presented to you, there is a lot of value. I was looking at you were talking about the Burrow 303 touchdowns, and I was like looking forward on the game specials tab and accidentally saw Jacoby Brissett's, and I was like, 15-1. No, I don't know if I'm going to do that either anyway. Still, like, I know it's 15-1, but I'm not sure if we're going to get there. But the Burrow one, that one I think does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All righty.
One last thing, Jim, was if you do like the over in this game at 45.5, I think it's interesting to get both teams to score 20 points is juiced up, and the plus money at plus 136. So if you think this can be a back and forth affair, I know people love, the Nick Chubb narrative and possibly covering here and then putting up points. And we know Cincinnati can always put up points. Both of these teams are implied for, over 20 points in this game, with the line being at where it is. So if you like that number, you might as well just double dip and get that plus money on both teams scoring 20 as well.
If you're just feeling the offensive vibes from yesterday too,
right,
it was pretty fun to actually see some scoring once again, actually see some good DFS scores for once. It was good. So hopefully we'll see that continue into tonight's game. That is all that we have here for the Bengals at the Browns kickoff coming up for tonight. But once again, like I said, we have our full breakdown of week number 9 coming up Thursday. Ryan will be back with us for that, talk about the best games of week 9, his favorite bets over there. I'll also have the first look coming up on Tuesday. Get both those as they are posted. Make sure you are subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts, and also check out the FanDuel YouTube page where all these shows go up after the fact. Ryan, thank you to you. Good luck to you on Monday Night Football, and enjoy a hopefully relaxing and profitable Halloween.
You do the same, brother, and we'll catch you on Thursday to talk the joyous Week 9 Sunday slate.
I am looking forward to it. Check out Ryan on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. I am on Twitter at Jim Sonis. Thank you all for tuning in. Good luck to you tonight. Happy Halloween. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow to get our first breakdown of week number 9. This has been Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.